This is a relay project.
Seriously?
Seriously starts now. Here's Supriya and Ryan.
Hey, it's Wednesday, December 21st, and you're listening to Seriously with Supriya and Ryan. I am Supriya Devetti in Toronto.
And I am Ryan Jesperson checking in from the pit of hell. It's almost minus 40, and nobody has a good answer with regards to why we would live anywhere near Edmonton, Alberta.
So to be fair, it's not really hell-like, it's more Hoth-like.
Well, it depends. It depends on your theology. But I remember growing up, I think a lot of people, because we were more inclined growing up in this part of Canada or on this part of planet Earth to experience the cold that hurts so badly that your fingers freeze and your face feels like it's being bit by 1,000 angry hornets. That I think that preachers and Sunday school teachers used to remind us that hell could be so cold it's painful as opposed to so hot. Maybe if you grow up in like Phoenix, then the fire and brimstone preachers talk about the heat. Here they can talk about the cold. Yeah, like you said, like Hoth.
Yes, I mean, you guys are essentially a block of ice. Vancouver and the surrounding area is like under lots of snow. There's going to be a huge snowstorm in a few days that's going to hit a lot of eastern Quebec and Ontario. So it'll be an interesting, I guess, lead up to the holidays in terms of getting to see people, right?
Yeah, there's nothing funny about people missing their flights and flights being canceled. And when all hell broke loose at Vancouver's airport earlier this week, obviously it sucked. It sucks, present tense, for a lot of people. But it is kind of cute, isn't it? For the whole country, it's so cute when Vancouver gets like 6 centimeters of snow and the entire lower mainland just shuts down. Nobody knows what to do about it. And for the rest of us, that's like a regular Tuesday afternoon. It's just, Vancouver, you're so cute.
They are, but I will say this in their defense, okay? They're not equipped for it. So like,
True.
They don't have snow plows at the ready. They don't have salting trucks at the ready. I'm sure folks don't necessarily have a ton of salt or like, I mean, I carry like something that's called like a winter kit in my car, which, you know, has like an emergency slew of things should I ever get snowed in somewhere. I'd imagine those aren't in high demand in you know, the lower mainland.
Yeah.
But all this to say, at least they didn't pull a Toronto and call in the fucking army.
Yeah,
So,
they didn't call the army yet. Yeah. No, Vancouver's kind of like the the retiree poolside that got caught in their deck slippers sipping the daiquiri when the storm rolled in, and they just don't know what to do about it. But we poke fun at Vancouver because we love Vancouver, of course. We're going to have a lot of fun today. This is going to be the final episode of Seriously that we're going to produce in the 2022 calendar year.
yeah, I mean, in case anybody is watching us on the YouTube link, I mean, I am in full Christmas attire right now. I'm wearing a Christmas sweater. Gremlins is a Christmas movie, in case anybody was wondering.
Yeah, Supriya, I started watching Gremlins with my 7-year-old the other day.
And did he like it?
No, he hated it. He was terrified. He was petrified. He was like potentially scarred for life. It is a Christmas movie. I forgot how
it is scary.
It's gnarly.
Yeah. I guess
Into the year.
Are you one of these? You have to watch like a certain amount of Christmas movies before you get into the.
Yeah, we've been crushing Christmas movies, and thanks to the recommendations we've been getting from one of our team members, John Hicks, who produces Seriously. He's been giving us his Hicks Holiday Flicks recommendations, and so I've been trying to check out some new ones. But we go back to the well for the classics as well. Last night, A Christmas Story. You'll shoot your eye out. How about you?
Yeah, I am a big fan as well because I consider Gremlins a Christmas movie. I also consider Batman Returns a Christmas movie because it happens during Christmas.
Okay.
So I'm perhaps not as traditional, I think, as a lot of people. But what I will say, and I know we do have to get on and get on with the actual show.
Do we, though?
Yeah, well, whatever. We sometimes talk about, conspiracy theories, and you and I like to poke fun at them sometimes. But the one conspiracy theory, I don't even know if you would call it a real conspiracy theory, but the one like Fox News moral panic that I do legit buy into is the war on Christmas. So that's why I always make sure to say Merry Christmas.
You really
whenever
do
I
buy
can.
into the war on Christmas?
Yeah, man, it's fucking real. Just why is it a holiday cup? Starbucks, it's a Christmas cup. That's what it is.
Yeah,
Okay?
yeah, okay. Uh-huh. Yeah, I get it. I guess I see it both ways.
You can tell me I'm a nutter. It's fair. We're friends.
Well, no,
You
but
can
now
be
I'm
honest.
going to get accused of being in the mushy middle on Christmas now. These spineless centrists and their holiday celebrations. I just feel like, I've got some Jewish friends that are legitimately celebrating Hanukkah right now. Although, to be honest,
sure.
none of them give a shit about anybody saying Christmas. They're perfectly fine with it. They say Merry Christmas and Happy Hanukkah. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Here's
what I will say. I that's a legit point, right? If you are celebrating Hanukkah or if you are celebrating something else around this time of year, or you just don't observe Christmas, that's fine. But if you know somebody is a Christmas enthusiast, okay, because I'm not religious, but clearly I'm an atheist, and I clearly am super big into Christmas. My husband was raised Sikh, and he's not super religious, but we have a tree and do the stockings and do the whole shebang. I think it's okay to say Merry Christmas. I don't know. And I don't know. I honestly don't know anybody who gets offended if they don't celebrate Christmas and are offered up a Merry Christmas instead of a Happy Holidays.
Yeah.
And I think part of being in our multicultural fabric is that I wish you a Merry Christmas and then you wish me a Happy Diwali when Diwali's around or whatever,
Can you imagine if just for fun, if I took the same tone of voice with that exact same sentence? Because we live in this multicultural fabric. All of a sudden, our first million download show. Someone's going to clip that 5 seconds because we live. Now I got to wish her a happy Diwali. Oh my God. It's the war on the West. No, but hey, in all seriousness, I do agree, and I spread it around like I don't know, the ag thing. My family. Why am I saying this? I don't know. I was going to say I spread it around like manure. But if you've ever seen farm equipment operating a manure spreader?
I haven't actually.
It's very effective. It just absolutely. Sorry, some people are eating their breakfast listening to this episode of Seriously, but there's nothing that it doesn't hit, and that's how I am with my Merry Christmas greetings when I am out and about. I feel like. It's kind of funny, though. I've never actually met someone in real. These are all fantasy people. Donald Trump and others will have you believe that this war on Christmas, and it's not so much Trump, it's Trump tapping into the evangelical Bible Belt lament that there's
I feel like the war on Christmas has been a thing for a while.
It's been a thing for more than 100 years. Yeah. As Paul Ferry, the noted Twitter list maker, has pointed out, and we'll have more on him, Pauly Sci, if you will, his handle, in just a little bit. But the war on Christmas has been a thing for more than 100 years, and I think it's just like the whole connection between Hallmark and Valentine's Day. I'm convinced that the war on Christmas was cooked up by people that are in the business of Christmas, and we're all falling for it. It is getting really close. For people that are here, I think a lot of people are going to hear this episode of Seriously, and they're going to realize, oh my gosh, I have but hours until Christmas. This year went by so fast. For some people, just hours left until the holiday break.
Yeah, totally. And I mean, we've only really got a few days until we're fully into the Christmas holiday break, New Year's break, whatever you want to call it. And there's only 11 more days left in 2022. And so, this is the time where people start planning about the next year. And Ryan, I'm going to ask you, have you started thinking about planning and business priorities for 2023?
Oh, for sure. I'm super well organized and I've got all of my top priorities mapped out. Yeah, definitely. Mm-hmm.
Well, I picked up on the sarcasm there, but for our listeners, one actual great way to start the new year is, looking into those new business priorities that you need to tackle in those first months of 2023.
Yeah, that's 100% true, Supriya. Great opportunity to find new business partners and set new objectives for growth, right? And one great partner for associations, regulators, nonprofits is We Know Training. We Know Training is your one-stop solution partner for providing impactful training that matters.
We Know Training handles every aspect of your training program, from instructional design and course creation to hosting and selling your courses online, to also providing bilingual learner support.
Yeah, this is really valuable for a ton of different organizations because they meet you where you're at and they can help you generate new revenue by creating amazing courses to sell through their powerful e-commerce engine and their storefront builder.
At We Know Training, your experts end up meeting their experts, and they turn your subject matter expertise into online courses that end up adding real value for your members and for your organization.
Yeah, that's right. And they take the stress off your plate. How valuable is that? So you can get back to doing what your organization does best with some additional revenue coming in from the courses you sell.
So work with a training partner that truly understands your needs, has solutions to your challenges, and delivers amazing results towards your business goals. Talk to We Know Training.
You can check them out on their website, weknowtraining.ca, or of course you can scroll down to the show notes to learn more about We Know Training.
The Lead.
So Ryan, this is the last Seriously episode of 2022. So we figured what better way to, kick it off than by looking back at our top picks for what the main, I guess, story was in this past year. I'll go with mine first, if that's okay. Mine is the Freedom Convoy. And that was also, I'm not like cribbing this off of the Canadian Press's Newsmaker of the Year. I legit think that. I think in the, conversations that you and I have had on Seriously, but on Real Talk as well, it's clear that I think there was a perceptible shift in terms of what the Freedom Convoy delivered to our politics. And, let's take a little bit of a listen of what those early days were like.
We can be here as long as it takes. We're well supported food-wise, fuel-wise, financially. We're fully supported to be here for as long as it takes for this government to realize that the people are the ones that need to have the power.
So, that was in the early days. You heard one of the convoy goers there basically lay out the fact that they did have a ton of support. And they did in terms of material support. I think the donations that they were managed to amass and their organizational ability is, to be quite honest, somewhat laudable. Like, it's not easy to do that. But if you look at what their overall support was from the Canadian public, it wasn't great. A vast majority of Canadians were not supportive of their tactics, even if they did have underlying sympathies or anger or misgivings towards the government. I just think that in terms of what the Freedom Convoy really represents for Canadian politics, it's the fact that it's the first time you've had an embrace of some of the fringes into our mainstream political family. And I am, of course, talking about the Conservatives here, who made a choice early into this that they were going to go all in to the Freedom Convoy, irrespective of whether or not the majority of Canadians supported that. And I think that's going to have real reverberations for the next few years, at least, as long as Mr. Poilievre is the one leading the Conservatives.
Yeah, I think you're right. Well supported financially, and the donations were impressive. But, I feel like the narrator wanted to jump in the middle of the quote when that fellow was talking. They were, in fact, not well financially supported because there were a lot of truckers. And again, not laughing at them. It's unfortunate. But, enter something like this at your own peril. 10 million plus, like 15 million plus in donations, whatever the running total was. Remember, GoFundMe shut it down. And then they went to that Christian fundraising site. I can barely remember the name, but you get the idea and you remember this. The funds were not being dispersed to the people, many of them that were using their life savings. I remember hearing an interview with one guy, at first glance, Supriya, just in plain language and real talk, a guy that looked like he could be easily duped. That's the nice way to put it. And the guy was in tears because he had spent his life savings, if I remember, about $7,000 filling up jerry can after jerry can after jerry can on his credit card for complete strangers, assured that he would be reimbursed. And guess what? He wasn't. And a lot of that money has not been dispensed to the people that were there in good faith. But of course, the general Canadian doesn't feel sorry for these people, because these are also the people that clogged up downtown Ottawa and acted like assholes for the better part of a month. So that's the story, I guess, on one side. I do agree with you that this could be the type of thing that hangs around the necks of Canada's Conservatives. But with the leadership that they've got right now and the support of that leadership early in Pierre Poilievre's tenure, they're going to wear this thing like a badge of honor. They're not trying to hide it. They're not trying to sweep it under a rug. Pierre Poilievre's not doing anything to try to get Canadians to forget about his support for the convoy.
Well, he's not, but I mean, he wasn't exactly vocal and active during the inquiry into the use or the invocation of the Emergencies Act, right? Like, if they really did want to lean in, they could have done a better job of doing that. And I'd imagine polling is kind of pulling them in another direction. But, to your point about them wearing it further down the line, I think it's less about the specificity of supporting the convoy and more about really going all in on supporting anti-vaxxers and anti-maskers and just bringing some of the more, what would have been, I guess, traditional People's Party voters back into the conservative fold. And I just think it'll be an interesting sort of mix of how they move forward. Now, if you're a conservative, you say, well, we lost some of our vote share to the PPC, so let's get that back. And we have the benefit of always being sort of positioned by legacy political media institutions as like the government in waiting. So they don't really have a ton to lose here by doing so. At least right now they don't. But it'll be, who knows?
Yeah. Now, because I couldn't choose Freedom Convoy, you see how I issue that caveat? These build really well off each other. And for my story of the year, I'm going to go with the rise in popularity to a fervor pitch, the impressive fundraising, and the walloping in the leadership race that saw Pierre Poilievre crowned. Here he is.
And it's all because of the inflationary deficits and spending of Justin Trudeau. Even the Bank of Canada governor has said that if deficits were smaller, inflation and interest rates would be lower.
So there you have it. We see a page out of Pierre Poilievre's playbook, the newly minted leader of the Conservatives, who doubled the party's membership through the course of his campaign. More than 300,000 memberships sold. No matter if you love him or hate him, you've got to acknowledge that's enormous. He's got Trudeau in his crosshairs for obvious reasons. He wants to be Canada's next prime minister. And Supriya, he's taking global trends and making them all the fault of the prime minister. You think it's going to work?
I mean, I think to a degree it already is sort of working. Who cares? Who gives a fuck about global trends if your grocery prices are skyrocketing and your gas prices are skyrocketing and you're not sure how you're going to make mortgage payment or your year over year rent has increased by 20-ish%. You're not going to care about any of that. And so I think he is tapping into something quite real. I think he's a very good communicator. And I think, to your point about his leadership race and how he basically bludgeoned all of his opponents over the head with his own sort of star campaign power. I think it's worth also noting that in the time that he was able to really grow the membership, which also to Conservatives' credit, they, the last time they had a leadership race was like the highest membership sold before that. So he smashed a record on top of a record.
Yeah.
Is the fact that he was able to garner so much momentum without really any, mainstream legacy media interviews or interaction. A lot of his stuff was just digital, straight to the folks who he felt needed to hear his message. And I think that's going to be a strategy that they employ going forward. And I don't know if the leadership is any indication, then it should work out for them for at least for the lead up to an election.
Yeah. And for political watchers, Stephen Harper was a tactician and understood the game of politics in a chess sort of a way. Andrew Scheer was, I think of him guzzling skim milk and that's kind of how I would describe him as a politician as well.
Can I just say one thing about Andrew Scheer?
Yeah, sure. Okay.
So I interviewed him a few years ago on air when I was still doing the radio thing. And I knew he wasn't going to win the election. When I asked him, it was I used to do these rapid fire at the end of an interview questions, Coke or Pepsi, blah, blah, this or that. Right. I asked him who his favorite Batman was. And his answer was Adam fucking West.
And
I'm
West.
like, Andrew, you're only a few years older than me. How is Adam West your answer? And afterwards, he felt so bad. He was like, oh, I can't believe I answered Adam West. He's like, And I was like, it's okay, man. And he was very affable and very likable.
Yeah.
But it's that mic went on and he just didn't, in the red light, it's on air.
Mm-hmm.
It's it just made him nervous. And I was like, okay, you're not ready for primetime, dude.
Interesting. I remember sitting down in studio once with Jason Kenney the morning that it had been announced that Gord Downey was fighting brain cancer when the band had made the announcement, and so we were playing Tragically Hip songs in and out of each commercial break, and there's Jason Kenney, and we came back on Bob Cajun. And I said to him, I said, there you have it. As you're listening live in studio. I'm sitting here with Jason Kenney. I said, which is your favorite Tragically Hip song? He said, that one. I should have said, sing me a couple lines, will ya? I digress. So you got Andrew Scheer, and then you had Aaron O'Toole, nice enough guy, but just wasn't up for the fight. And the point I'm getting at here is of the past number of Conservative leaders, the party now has one that can go toe-to-toe with the Prime Minister in debates, on brand, on messaging, on getting people, like I said earlier, to a fever pitch. And I think that it's going to be very interesting to watch. This is a Conservative leader that the governing Liberals have to take very seriously.
Also, there's this.
All right, well, why don't we take a look into our respective crystal balls and predict what might be the story of the year, or at least one of the big ones heading into 2023.
Yeah, so what I'm going to be really watching for is the government tabling their much anticipated bill on online harms, online safety. We don't really know what they're going to call it. They haven't even drafted it yet. But if we can look to other jurisdictions, the UK in particular, in terms of how their online safety bill debate is playing out, I think it'll be somewhat instructive for us. And so here's a clip of Ian Russell, whose daughter Molly died from self-harm at the age of 14 while suffering from depression. And this is what the coroner concluded, the negative effects of online content. He recently gave an interview to the BBC. Here's part of it.
I often say that the post that comes to mind is a simple post of a sad drawing of a girl, pencil-drawn girl looking sad. And next to it were the words, "Who would love a suicidal girl?" That in and on its own isn't necessarily harmful. But when the platform's algorithms send hundreds, if not thousands, of those posts or posts like it to someone who, particularly if they're young and vulnerable, then that content has to be regulated against. The algorithms have to be looked into as well, and that's what the concern is.
And so as the government gears up for this, 2023 bill, I think it's important that we recognize that often when we talk about the issue of online safety or online harms, however you want to qualify it, it's like posed as this weird false dichotomy between you can either have safety or free speech, and that's it. And we need to move beyond that sort of false framing because it's a shitty one. And also, we know that there's like legit harmful content and that there are systems and incentives and structures and design choices that are made by the platforms to encourage, the exposure of this, harmful content. And one such example, a recent investigation found that like TikTok, for example, is suggesting eating disorder and self-harm content to new accounts made by teens within minutes. Like one of them was like 2.8 minutes and they're being shown eating disorder content. Like I get that the Conservatives are going to want to frame this and those on the right are going to want to frame this as censorship, but we need to move beyond that framing because like the kids are not okay. And, are these platforms, these giant big tech platforms that are, disabling democracy, encouraging mob violence, putting all this predatory content out to kids, like they need to be reined in to just like any other company that offers products to Canadians. And so that's how we should be thinking about this issue, that you have consumer facing products. And unlike every other fucking consumer facing product that Canada puts out, they are not subject to any safety standards. They're not subject to any product standards. And so they need to be conducting those sorts of risk assessments.
I think you're bang on. And I think that if we're being honest with ourselves, well, I won't speak for you, but most of us, we don't understand algorithms. We don't really understand how they work. We don't really understand how to recognize when they're working, let alone when they're working with younger people that certainly wouldn't be in a position to navigate it. So I think you're bang on. I'm going to look a little bit west, but it's the west looking east for my big story that I'm predicting in 2023. Here's a recent snippet from the newly minted Premier of Alberta.
This is all about making sure that Ottawa stays out of our jurisdiction. The way I've described it to the chiefs that I've spoken with is that they have fought a battle over the last number of years to get sovereignty respected and to extract themselves from the paternalistic Indian Act. We get treated the exact same way from Ottawa.
Okay, so Danielle Smith had to eat her words on that one. The province of Alberta arguably the most prosperous province in the entire country, has not, in fact, been treated like Indigenous people in Canada under the paternalistic Indian Act. But the tone and the focus of that recent statement gives you all you need to know about how Alberta's premier will approach conversations and campaigning in her quest for true sovereignty for the province of Alberta. What makes this especially interesting for the rest of the country, Supriya, of course, is that Alberta's looking ahead to a provincial election in May. And there's a lot of talk out of the premier's office about the Notley, Singh, Trudeau alliance. This is, of course, Rachel Notley with the Alberta NDP, her federal counterpart Jagmeet Singh, and the Prime Minister. And the more they talk about that alliance, the more you get an understanding of exactly how they'll be campaigning for Danielle Smith to win her first election and earn 4 years in that premier's office. It's going to be a story the country will want to pay attention to.
Seriously?
So, Ryan, both you and I follow Paul Ferry on Twitter. He's a poli-sci prof over at the University of Calgary, and he puts out these great threads just generally. And for the last few years, he's been putting out this headline of the year Twitter thread. And you and I thought it would be, kind of funny to pick what we thought were our top three. And so this is in no particular order. But you and I have picked our top three. We haven't shared it with each other.
No.
So I'll go first as to one of my top three. And it is monkey that was flushed down toilet, fed cocaine, now has a boyfriend.
I mean, any questions?
But it was just flushed down the toilet and then went into the sewer or just got stuck halfway through.
Well, and did they feed it cocaine or did they teach it to snort cocaine? Was it shooting cocaine? What's a monkey snorting cocaine? I mean, on TikTok, you want to talk about viral content. Monkeys 100%. Snorting cocaine would be, kids, don't give your monkeys your parents' cocaine. All right. Here's a headline of the year from Paul's thread that jumped out at me. Mondrian painting has been hanging upside down for 75 years. Who says? Did they talk to the painter?
It just goes to show nobody really understands art.
Nobody understands art whatsoever.
Okay, my next one is 10,000 bees joined protest in Chile. 7 police officers stung. The reason why I thought this was so funny is because if any insect is going to really join, or any animal is going to join a protest, it's going to be fucking bees because they want to be unionized. They're worker bees. They're working for the queen. They need rights. They're joining the protest,
Well done.
Thank you.
Well done. Very well done. All right, here's one that jumped out at me in my top three. Man who paid $2.9 million for the NFT of Jack Dorsey's first tweet, set to lose almost $2.9 million. The whole NFT thing, I'm not going to write off cryptocurrency in particular. At this point, I'm not set to 100% write off Bitcoin because I think if you read the white papers, it's interesting and you talk to the experts and they do see a role that regulated maybe finance could have. Okay, I'm done with the talking points. But the NFT thing.
Yeah,
the NFT thing for me, I guess it was explained to me as do you want to own the original Monet as opposed to a print of the original that you bought at IKEA? That's kind of the idea of the NFT. But when it's a digital copy of something that's somehow different than all the other digital copies of something, who gives a fuck?
Yeah, who cares? I don't know.
The people that I've seen spending all this money on NFTs, they're the people that appear to be able to afford to lose that much money. And so I say more power to them. And I just want to know when we're releasing our first Seriously NFT.
This is my last one. Seal breaks into New Zealand home, traumatizes cat, and hangs out on couch.
The cats I know would love to fight seals. What's up with this cat? Is this the laziest cat in New Zealand?
Well, seals can be kind of aggressive, can they not?
Oh, sure.
And to be fair, we don't know why the cat was traumatized. Maybe it was just traumatized because the seal was in its couch spot.
Yeah, maybe the cat was raised by walruses who were always talking shit about seals, and this cat just didn't know how to respond. We don't know the background. We're just commenting on the headlines. All right, here's my third of three. How to Murder Your Husband writer guilty of murdering her husband. Nothing funny about murder, but the headline kills. We'll be back in the new year. You can find us, of course, on our website in the meantime at seriouslypod.com and, of course, all over social media.
At SeriouslyPod on Instagram, at Supriya and Ryan on Twitter, seriouslypod.com, as Ryan mentioned. And, email us as we're off. Tell us what we can be doing better. Talk at seriouslypod.com.
We're always curious to hear how you think Supriya can be doing better. Thank you for joining us on this edition of Seriously, the final of 2022. I am so lucky to call you a friend, and my heart is full every single time we connect and do one of these episodes every Wednesday. A Merry Christmas to you, Supriya, and happy
you
holidays
too, buddy.
to your family.
See you next year.
You bet.
Seriously is hosted by Supriya Dwivedi and Ryan Jesperson. Technical producer, John Hicks. Executive producer, Josh Dunford. Account coordinator, Lawrence Terlego. General manager, Katie Cook-Shivers. Human resources, Lena Shepard. Voiceover by me, Tangi. Seriously is a relay project. For more, check out seriouslypod.com.